comrades. I'm Meromit, and I do suggest you make yourself some warmth and buterbrot because this video is going to be dense. Of course you clicked here to see a Soviet gas mask, but today you get double the content because this time on Project Spark we're taking a look at the Soviet GP-7 gas mask as well as its VM modification. Welcome to the video! You're likely familiar with the iconic Soviet GP-5 gas mask. Well, this is the GP-7, its direct successor and the last general-purpose filtering gas mask of the Soviet civil defense. The name stands for Гражданский противогаз, or Civilian Gas Mask Module 7. It is vastly different from earlier generations of Soviet protective equipment, since here the designers decided to completely drop the previously dominant helmet mask design, opting for a frontal mask instead. Of course, the GP-7 was not the first of its kind used in the USSR. In fact, it is a simplified civilian adaptation of the PMK-1 military gas mask that was already issued in the Soviet armed forces. The new mask brought considerable improvements in ergonomics and functionality, so much so that entering production around 1985, after several years in development, the GP-7 remains both in production and in use to this day in a number of variants, two of which we have enhanced to show you, comrades. Let's take a closer look at the regular non-modified GP-7 variant. It is issued with a mask-type face piece in a watertight plastic bag, a filtering canister and paper packaging, and a metal container with anti-fog. All of this of course comes in a fabric gas mask bag. It is also possible for some kits to include winter outserts for the goggle unit and a textile filter cover. At least these items are listed in the kit description. The GP-7 gas mask comes with an MGP face piece. The acronym stands for Маска гражданского противогаза, which literally translates to Mask of Civilian Gas Mask. The face piece is once again a civil defense iteration of the military M80 mask. As I mentioned, unlike most of the older face pieces, it does not follow the helmet mask design. Instead, it is a mask with a head harness. There is a round goggle unit, a voice membrane, an inlet valve assembly on the left side, and an outlet valve assembly oriented downwards. The voice membrane is not replaceable and cannot be accessed, where the outlet valve assembly can be taken apart. We can also see that it is double valved for reliability. A noticeable improvement over older generations of face pieces is in how all the parts of the mask are held in place by solid metal rings instead of wire, tape and clips, making it much easier to take apart and put back together. The head harness attaches at 5 points and is fully adjustable. The bottom straps of the harness have a neat quick adjustment feature thanks to the plastic stoppers, which can be preset to any required position. The bottom buckles are also made out of metal and have rollers installed. This allows the user to easily put the face piece on with the straps fully released and then to quickly set it to the correct size when the mask is already in combat position. The other straps, though, only have plastic buckles and have to be adjusted in advance. A set of standard Soviet face piece markings are present on the right side. According to the size stamp, this face piece is size 2 out of total 3. Below it is the press form number, and lastly we have the factory of origin cipher and date of production. Letter T stands for Tambov Mash, a factory located in the Russian city of Tambov. The number 91 with 2 dots after it tells us that this mask was manufactured in the second quarter of 1991, meaning this is still a Soviet-produced face piece. The press form number, factory marking and date are doubled on the back of the head harness. The size markings located in the head straps correspond to specific head sizes and are described in the user manual. The MGP face piece does not have a sub-mask common among modern Western counterparts. Instead, it has something called an obturator, which lines the entire mask and provides hermetic seal. Another interesting technical solution found in the MGP is these rings made out of spring metal. They are installed inside the goggle unit in order to hold the anti-fog films in place when they are used. I also happen to have a spare inlet assembly, so I'm able to show you what that looks like. Inside the face piece it is oriented towards the voice membrane, meaning that nothing directly ventilates the goggle unit, like that happens in a GP-5 for example, which practically guarantees fogging, meaning that anti-fog agents are absolutely necessary to use this gas mask. This is probably the biggest downside of the MGP. The filter of the GP-7 gas mask is designated as GP-7K. In contrast to the face piece, there is nothing revolutionary about it. It is identical to the E010801 filter issued with the PMK-1 gas mask, and is ever so slightly different from the older GP-5 canister. You can tell the Model 7 apart from the Model 5 by a different pattern on the top and the fact that it's slightly taller. Protective properties should be very similar and provide resistance to the common selection of Siberian threats of the time, with this being a civil defense gas mask. Internal structure is practically identical, with the bottom section being filtering paper and the top section containing the so-called schichta, which is a technical term for activated carbon granules. The elongation on the top seems to be an improvement on airflow, although I'm not entirely sure. Of course, the canister is topped with the Soviet standard 40mm thread that attaches the filter to the face piece. It is protected with a cap and a rubber seal, and is often referred to in the West as the GOST thread. The bottom of the filter has an inlet opening that is protected by a rubber plug. The markings on the filter read the filter model, GP-7K, the time of production, second month of 1991, which is usually consistent with the face piece, and a factory code of some sort. I should also mention that these filters, or at least some variations of them, are still in production and are pretty common. Reportedly, recent batches no longer use asbestos, while of course retaining the compatibility with older Soviet face pieces, and being all-around good universal functional filters. Meaning that if you are able to source these for a good price, these guys are probably your best option for any cheeky-breeky or us for LARP purposes. The carry bag issued with the GP-7 Gasmask is something in between GP4 and GP5 bags, both by size and by features. It has a single main compartment that closes with a flap and a button. The fabric and furniture are identical to those of GP5 bags. You might also notice some dark pigmentation on the fabric, and this happens sometimes after prolonged contact with black rubber during storage. The back has an adjustable shoulder strap and a waist thread, also like those on GP5 bags. The side pocket intended for the anti-chemical agent is still in place here and now houses the sub-pocket for the anti-fog. That is because the other pocket, which would be meant for an AI series medkit, is not present here. Instead of it, there is a small strap with a pretty cool purpose, which we will touch on when discussing the VM variation, so stick around. The factory markings are located inside the main compartment. They're very well printed on the specimen, so we can take a look at them in detail. The top portion reads MLP USSR, which stands for Ministry of Light Industry of the Ukrainian SSR, Sverdlovsk Swin Factory. The code under it is the technical specs to which this bag was made, and the last bit tells us that this bag was manufactured in March of 1991, which is consistent with the rest of the kit, as it should be. The small stamp on the side reads OTK and stands for Department of Technical Control, or Quality Control. The standard GP7 variation always comes with a metal container of anti-fog films, seemingly identical to those issued with GP5s. It is labeled as NPN. Let's crack it open. First thing we see is an informational insert. It reads Kazan Manufacturing Association TASMA, named after Valerian Kuybyshev. The designation in the middle reads NPN-59S, which I can only assume is the full name of the item. Right below the designation is the batch number 6 pieces, manufactured in March 1991. On the reverse side of the insert is a set of instructions. Below it is what seems to be an assembly line number followed by 3 pairs of non-fogging films. The gas mask is over 30 years old now, so they're clearly expired and absolutely defaced. Originally though, 1 pair was to be inserted into the goggle unit and used until it would lose its properties, to be replaced by the next one, and so on. The instructions for this are also present in the user manual. From the factory, GP-7 gas masks come in large wooden crates with 20 gas mask kits per crate. These crates are used for long-term storage and for transportation. When the need arises, the crate is unboxed, individual kits are assembled, and issued for use. To assemble the gas mask, we would need to unpack everything, check for condition or possible damage, attach the filtering canister to the face piece, preset the head harness to the correct size, insert anti-fogging films or attach outserts if needed, and return everything into the respective compartments. We would also introduce additional equipment, such as IPP series anti-chemical package. According to the instruction manual, the GP7 has 3 wearing positions, just like other Soviet gas masks. The stowed position would have the gas mask assembled in the carry bag, kept on the left side and a bit further back as to not interfere with any manual work. In the ready position, you would move the bag to the front and unbutton the flap, keeping it ready for fast use. You would also use the waist thread to fix it in place. Finally, by switching to the so-called combat position, you would put the gas mask on in accordance to the procedure from the instruction manual and by orders from your superiors or an alarm. I have probably mentioned the instruction manual over a dozen times now, and that is because there is a lot of interesting information in there which you comrades may be interested in seeing. Therefore, I would like to remind you that our channel has pages on Boosty and on Patreon, where we post all sorts of interesting documentation and references for our videos, among other exclusive content. In fact, you will be able to find the GP7 instruction manual in there, complete with all the interesting diagrams and graphics. You can check it out through the links down below in the description. Now let's take a look at the GP-7VM variant of the gas mask. It comes in a similar setup, including a face piece, a filter, and a container of anti-fog with similar packaging. The VM variation additionally includes a canteen for drinking water and a drinking system adapter, all of this also in a gas mask bag. The main feature of the variation is a drinking system, along with some other modifications. Unlike a standard GP-7, the VM variant comes with a more sophisticated face piece, designated MB-180, originally used in the military PMK-2 setup. It has a similar layout to the MGP, but with more features and some differences. Firstly, it usually comes with a plastic frame insert to maintain the shape of the mask in long-term storage. It is possible to see these with MGPs, but that is rare. The most noticeable difference is in the shape of the eyepieces. They are triangular and have some curvature to them, and this is most likely meant to provide a wider viewing angle. The MB-180 provides the possibility to attach the filter on either side of the mask, meaning that the inlet assembly is also different. On one side there is a plastic plug, while the other side has a threaded adapter meant for regular GP-7 filters. These can be switched from one side to another depending on user preference. Although the mask is designed to take a single filter at a time, it can take two at a time in theory, which is of course interpreted as a direct call to action by many enlightened goblins. But trust me, don't be a debil and do not disappoint babushka. One filter only. Anyways, another difference is the absence of a quick adjustment system on the harness. There are no plastic stops, meaning that every strap needs to be adjusted in advance, and this is rather odd given how the MB-180 is more sophisticated overall. Also, because of the different filter placement, markings on the face piece were moved further up. They are largely identical, with this mask being also from Tambov, although produced in 1992, making it an early Russian face piece. As I mentioned, the main feature of this mask, specifically, and the VM variation as a whole, is the drinking system. On the outside it is composed of a rubber tube and the metal nipple joint. In stowed position, the system is wrapped around the voice membrane, and there is also a dedicated slot under the outlet valve that houses the nipple joint. On the inside of the mask there is a rubber drinking straw that can twist in and out of position. We can also see that the inside part of the inlet assembly is different from that of the MGP, which seems to be the last major difference between the two. Our specimen of the GP-7VM comes with a regular GP-7 filter, except this one is designated as GP-7KS instead of GP-7K. I can only guess that the difference between the two is in the type of carbon, because otherwise these canisters are identical apart from the extra letter in the designation. At the same time, some credible sources claim that GP-7VMs do come with regular GP-7K filters as well, meaning you can come across either one. To be used with the drinking system, the VM kit also includes a semi-transparent plastic water canteen. It is labeled accordingly with the words for drinking water 1 liter on the side. There is also a neat checkering pattern on both sides, for better grip I assume. The canteen comes closed with a cap that serves as a drinking system adapter. It has a push valve assembly inside of it meant to connect with the nipple joint of the face piece. In stowed position, the adapter is sealed with a rubber plug on a thread to keep it from getting lost. In order to assemble and use the drinking system, according to the instruction manual, you would have to extend the drinking tube, flick the drinking straw into position, and connect the nipple joint to the canteen cap while blowing air out of it. Important note, the canteen would have to be upside down and above your head in order for it to work, because comrade physics. I was actually considering drinking from this, but the whole assembly has just seen better days and smells like rubber. It will probably taste like rubber as well. Plus the adapter is covered in aluminum oxides after 30 plus years in a box. I'm sorry comrades, but I think there'll be a better day for me to get chemical poisoning, blять. But there is indeed another interesting technical solution in the GP-7VM kit I would like to show you. The canteen cap actually runs the standard canteen thread, meaning it is interchangeable with those of all Soviet canteens produced from the 1950s onwards, including military ones. It is not unique to the GP-7 either. Here it comes pre-installed with the canteen, but on some other gas masks it comes packaged separately, and this was actually done on purpose. This feature is actually supported by the strap on the gas mask bag that I mentioned earlier. It is meant to hold a standard issue Soviet military canteen in a fabric cover. Although these are not included with the gas mask, and I have not heard of them being issued to civil defense, this combo is very plausible given how widespread they are and makes a very cool looking setup. As per the gas mask bag itself, in our case, they are identical in both GP-7 variations. Anti-Fog, on the other hand, is different, which makes sense since the GP-7VM face piece has a completely different goggle unit. The container here is much larger, but is also labeled as NPN. Let's crack this one open as well. The informational insert is very similar to the previous one, and the manufacturer is also the same, except these are of post-Soviet production and the designation is NPN-62,5, whatever that means. Everything under the insert is pretty much the same, and the films themselves are in much better condition. There are two options in terms of installing these. Some face pieces come with metal springs like those on the regular MGP, while some other kits may include rubber blocks with the same purpose. This is pretty much it in terms of what we have on hand. But since the GP-7 Gasmask was in production for over 40 years and came in a multitude of variations, to add even more value to the video, I think we can discuss some of the nomenclature and different kit elements that appeared throughout the years. Of course, we have looked at the regular GP-7 and the GP-7VM variant, but there are also the following. GP-7V, a variant that comes with the MGP face piece that is equipped with a drinking system but lacks the other VM features. GP-7VMT, a pretty rare modification meant for extremely cold conditions. It is allegedly equipped with some specific filter. Again, this is not a common variant at all, so there is not a lot of information. GP-7VMS. According to some sources, this is what GP-7VM kits are designated when they are equipped with GP-7KS canisters. GP-7B, a whole modern series with a combined face piece and sophisticated plastic and metal filters such as GP-7KB, for example. GP-7BV, just like GP-7B, but also with a drinking system. There are likely even more, but these variants alone can be confusing enough because of kit variation and changes that appeared over time. For example, there are minor technical differences between earlier and more recent MGP face pieces, such as harness furniture and the metal fixation rings. Markings could also be different. As well as that, some GP-7VM kits can rarely come with M80 masks instead of MB180. I'm not even going to get into the modern B series, since these come with completely different modernized face pieces. Some GP-7K filters can also have a plastic frame spacer inside. In terms of external differences, more modern canisters usually have an entirely different labeling technique, and have extra manufacturer stamps on the can itself. In terms of bags, more modern kits usually have them in a different tint of green. As well as that, some GP-7VM kits, allegedly, come with totally different bags very similar to those of PMK gas masks. Because of the fact that GP-7 gas masks were and are produced by multiple entities, there could be even more differences and options offered by commercial manufacturers, including a lot of variation in markings, accessories, and packaging. Among other things, I have seen some pretty cool canteen or water bottle adapters for the drinking system, and several generations of reworked anti-fog, from new pattern films to sprays and gel solutions. To my knowledge, apart from Russia, GP-7 gas masks are also manufactured in Ukraine with a whole selection of local modifications and designations, some of which are based on common Soviet and Russian variants, while some others are totally different. What I can actually show you is a filter of Ukrainian production I had laying around. Notice how it is made using a GP5 canister template instead of the GP7 one. This is a 2017 pattern GP7K canister. Although it is labeled in Russian, the DSTU and the proof mark are clearly Ukrainian. Alright comrades, looks like we dove deep enough into the GP7 rabbit hole for one video, but please do let us know in the comments if you actually enjoy this kind of dense and informational content. I would also like to remind you that you can check out our Boosty, Patreon, and our Discord community, where you can find some exclusive content occasionally and people with the same type of gear autism as you have. Anyways, I hope that you found this video informative, enjoyable, and see you on the next one. Давай!